we'll have a bit of a casual conversation, uh, and see who shows up.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't want to read your bio just yet
Okay.
because we'll see. We want one or two people to show up before I actually read your bio, and it is a great, great bio, by the way. Probably the first thing. Well, actually, let's go ahead and dive in. Let me um Ninette Terhart. I pronounced that right, right?
Terhart, like tearing.
Terhart. A multi award-winning vocalist, dancer, performer, turned spiritual teacher, and online frequency release practitioner. We talked about, for one, wow, um, and for two, we talked about the frequency release practitioner and what that entitled earlier in my earlier live stream. So I definitely want to dive into that.
Wow. Okay,
But
cool. I
let's
love
finish
that.
up the bio. Her career has spanned national stages, bodybuilding competitions, aerial arts, and magic shows, all of which became stepping stones in a single awakening arc. Through her new book, One Foot in Infinity, Ninette brings together music, movement, multidimensional insight to help people experience awakening in real time. The book includes 90-day wake up express packed with sound activations, prayer, and practical vibrational tools designed to catalyze deep remembrance of who we really are. Known for her humor, authenticity, and radiant presence, Annette reminds us that enlightenment doesn't have to be heavy. It can be joyful, embodied, and astonishing. So I want to start off with, so who are we really? It's a tough one, right out of the bat. Right out of the bat.
Yeah, well, we are intentionally based spiritual consciousness. I mean, that's as far as I'm concerned in the experiences that I've had, I really see that everything is intentionally based. So if you believe you're here having a human experience, that's intentional. If you feel that you are witnessing something on your screen of space that is either joyous or the opposite, right? Triggering or upsetting, that's intentional. It's there for you to release, it's there for you to re-see it and renew it.
So is the forgetting who we are intentional as well?
Yes, I do feel that that is probably the main ingredient in order for it to feel. I mean, it's really no different, Eric, than choosing to go to a theme park and going to the fun house. Like you intentionally go in, you want to be scared, you want to be like, whoa, and then you come out and you're like, okay, that was cool. That's not me, but that was a great experience.
Right. Like
And so
suspending belief for going to a horror movie. You know it's a movie, but you want to believe it while you're for the 2 hours or however.
now I love that you brought that up because I think, didn't you just have David Hoffmeister on your
I did.
show?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he talked about it, but he has many times about how he would purposely watch upsetting movies when he was living with his mom still. So he was quite young, but he was definitely on the spiritual path. And he would specifically watch movies to get triggered so that he could see it and release it and heal his mind.
Well,
Did he talk
no,
about that?
I've heard him talk about that, but I don't remember if he talked about it with me or not. I know
Okay.
you thank him in your book, the beginning of your book.
Yes. Yes.
So he was someone who really had an impact.
Yeah, because he touched on so many things at the time when I was really getting into the course initially. He would say things that I just did not want to hear. So I knew, okay, if I don't want to hear this, then there's some gold here that I get to look at.
I have that with Kenneth Wapnick. I have an
Oh.
internal, I have an internal Ken Wapnick in my head that uh, he'll stop me in on moments and go, no, no, no,
Right.
very
Oh,
kindly.
Ken, dude. OG. He's the OG of the course, man.
He is. He is.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have a very an interesting blend in how you're piecing all this together. I mentioned this to you yesterday with Seth, with Abraham Hicks, with the Course in Miracles. Um, and who else did you mention at the beginning of your?
Uh, Keith Kavanaugh, who's a huge Ken Wapnick, as we know, he's brilliant. Of course, Linda O'Connell, who is just an astounding intuitive and a healer. She's just phenomenal and has been a mighty companion through the course with me. And then, of course, J Dog, Jesus Christ. I mean, come on, he's the Hefe of so much of that
Right.
consciousness, as we know.
You mentioned that the Seth material spoke to you before you even read the book.
Yeah, my father in the game was a huge metaphysical seeker. So he was really into the UFOs and transcendental meditation, you know, and it was all kind of coming in the 70s, right? And he had
Right.
a bookshelf of all these crazy books. And I remember seeing the cover of Seth Speaks, you know, with her face and the whole thing. And I thought, okay, I don't know exactly what it means, but it felt really huge to me. And I was very young, but I knew that I could never not see that energy that that book held until many decades later, when, of course, I started to delve in and realized, wow, like, yes, he was definitely a great role model in that way to, you know, because he had all these books, A Road Less Traveled and UFOs and just, you know,
Right.
stuff that most parents at that time, they weren't putting on their main bookshelf. They maybe hid them in their closet, but they were, you know, kind of like advertising, this is what I'm into, you know?
Um, and then from there, proceeding with Abraham Hicks, a lot of connection between the two.
Yeah, because, you know, I was really getting into Abraham and Hicks. I think that was the first kind of like conscious, okay, something is speaking and I'm seeking. And then I heard about Abraham and Hicks because they had those newsletters they'd mail out. Remember those cassette tapes?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, back in the day. And I would, you know, mail out and get them. And I couldn't wait. Every month that newsletter would come or that cassette tape. And I was just mowing it down like no one's business. I couldn't get enough of them. And then a close friend bought tickets for my husband at the time and myself to go see them speak in Marina Del Rey,
Oh wow.
which was wow.
Did you have any trouble bridging the um, channel messages, Seth and Abraham Hicks, to Course in Miracles? Did the message did they seem to converge nicely for you, or was there any type of contrast that was sort of hard to bring together?
No, that's a great question, actually. I really felt the blending of all of it. I mean, I'm pretty much, you know, at that time when I was really kind of open and seeking, I was really open to just about anything that rang my bell, dude. You know, like it was like, what do you got for me? And I will take it in. And if I apply it and I really see fruitage, then I run with it. That's kind of how I've kind of done it. So I would take bits from Seth and the bits from Abraham. And, you know, and then when the course came, now the course, that's a whole other ball. You know, it really is. I think the course, once I was at that level where I was sort of ready, it came and just kind of like bonked me on the head and stunned me enough for me to now start looking at things very differently.
So, what was your introduction to the course? How did you come
With
about that?
Kate Greaves online, she was hosting a Course in Miracles, but they were discussing and reading the cameos. So I thought that was quite interesting because those were specifically for Helen and Bill. And
Right.
there was quite a bit of controversy of not to put them in the book. But I'm so glad that they decided to, because I don't know, a lot of people don't really read them. From what I understand, they love the lessons and the stuff, but the cameos are brilliant because they take that the personal aspects of these two and they show you, it just shows you how in their everydayness, there it was. There was the practical tools and watching that relationship between Helen and Bill, you know, I mean, from the beginning to then moving through those experiences together. I mean, very revealing.
Right. And that is Robert Perry's. Um, he's talked about that, how those, the Urtex, the uh, conversation with Helen and Bill uh, with Jesus and the personal information is also relevant to everyone else. And I just wrote about a little prayer that was given to William Thetford that I never read in the text before. It's not in there, but it was very powerful. Um, I, I'm here, Lord. That's it. That's the entire prayer. I'm here, Lord.
I'm here.
Um, and it was a way for him who always felt like an observer but never present to
Right.
be present in the kingdom, to be present to his consciousness, to know that I am here, Lord. Um, Very powerful. So I haven't done much studying with the Urtext, but I'm ready to dig in.
Yeah. And you mean the cameos?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, when you just said that, Eric, it really reminded me of Joel Goldsmith, who is the other practitioner that I
I saw that.
mentioned. To me, he's the granddaddy of, you know, that whole scene back in the 50s and 60s, late 40s, you know. And he was very much about, it's not about asking, it's not about begging or bidding. It's saying, I know, I've remembered, I am, and here I am with you. And not even in the separation. Here I am with I. You know, I mean, you really got to start peeling those layers back, you know, and notice how we talk to ourselves about that, because we still sometimes really enforce separation. And I think as a collective in this game, we're really heading towards a clearing of that. I mean, we're going to see some massive shifts in the play out of consciousness here.
Are you willing to give us any uh, hints of what you feel might be coming? Uh,
Well, I mean, look at this. If you look at the last, even just the last 5 years of the content that we now see on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok about spiritual content, UFOs. I mean, I'm still in consciousness. I'm in the game, but I'm using the game to really see how we are starting to come together in a unified sense of one, the one mind, the one, you know, creative principle, the one infinite intelligence, that oneness. We're really starting to see a coming together, even though there's seemingly a lot of chaos. All that stuff's got to be flushed up in order for us to remember we're the same. We're all one.
um, I don't know if you know Beth Greer. She's
Oh yeah, love
uh,
her.
she believes 2026 will be the year of open contact.
I believe that is the case. Yes.
Um, One of the things I asked her was about the Greys. She said she's never had any uh, experiences with extraterrestrials that have ever been bad, nothing but love,
Right.
and that she received information that the Greys are not something to worry of at this point, that they've largely been removed from uh, Earth.
Right. Interesting.
Um, yeah, I don't know if you um, have considered, if you've touched upon that at all.
Yes, I. The first thing I'll say is that from what I have been shown in my experiences, it's us coming to us, showing us the usness, right, in another form, because this is about form. This game, right? We get to feel the I am in a form, and also I also really feel strongly about what is in your mind, the contents you will see and witness in your experience here. So what you know, and Neville Goddard was really big on this whole screen of space, consciousness pushed out. onto the screen of space. So for me personally, in this consciousness experience, that's what I've noticed for the Ninette parable, is that whatever is in my mind will be revealed to me, and then I get to choose. And that other aspect of the mind, the course talks about the right mind, ego concept mind. I get to choose at that time, as the decision maker, what is this going to mean for me?
So that sort of puts the onus, the responsibility on something like the course, some type of mind training, giving us that responsibility to have our mind in a place where we're going to receive what we would like to receive instead of getting secondhand uh, because we have not been responsible with our thoughts.
And that's what's getting flushed up from what I feel and what I've seen, what I understand, what I sense, is that where you are is what you will see. And again, you get the opportunity to re-see it. I mean, if we look at that old scripture, behold, I make all things new. You can break that down and put each word next to each other, and it holds its own. So if we say behold, there we are. Behold, behold, I make. Behold, I make all. Behold, I make all things. And then behold, I make all things new. So each aspect, when you cut it up like a piece, like a pie, is, I mean, you could really contemplate that for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And be perfectly at peace and feel the freedom.
So it almost seems to me, actually, it does seem to me that your new book is sort of a handbook for guiding you along for what's
Yeah,
going to come for this next chapter of what life, the universe, is going to present to us.
right, right. And again, that's why I feel the title, really depicts what it's about. 1 foot in infinity. We're in a game in consciousness. It's not what we are. It's intelligent, it's intentional, and you get to decide what everything is for. So when you notice you are upset, it's a set up, so we can really start to maneuver, because everything's malleable, right? I mean, you have this very strong perspective on something, but the minute you have a shift in perspective, and that happens, as the course would say, in a holy instant. The minute you allow the mind to experience that holy instant, it completely changes your participation in the game. Completely changes it. And I'm sure you've experienced that yourself personally.
I've had some shifts for sure.
Yeah.
And it is, then you get to know what a miracle is. Uh, we use that term, but when you experience it, when you experience the actual miracle of that shift of perception, when you're truly seeing, I love, I don't remember which lesson it is, that if you truly see this table, or this desk, or this whatever, when you truly see, to me, this is when Course in Miracles becomes Zen-like in its approach. True seeing, beyond the meaning that we've assigned it.
Mhm.
Then we can see everything. Or, as you were saying, uh, for the malleable, we get to see what we would like to see. We get to see the deeper aspect of what
Yes.
this is, including each other.
Yeah. Well, you can't leave home without your brothers and sisters. That's how we go home, is we use and utilize all of the reflective fractions we have in order to remember. And that has a double meaning. We remember and we also remember. We come together, right? I mean, the course does say, if you can't see it in another, you can't see it in yourself. You must see it in the reflection in order to remember what you truly are. And I think that to me is, I mean, we wrote the script. How brilliant. You
Right.
can't get more brilliant than that.
I very much wanted to crawl into my Course in Miracles holy cave and retreat from society. Um, just things going on life. I just, wanted to study the course. And that's again when my inner Ken Wapnick came in and said the same thing that you said. We go home together. That uh, if you want to, the title of my channel was Just a Yogi. I practice yogi. I practice yoga. And if I wanted to retreat to a cave, stick with my yoga. But if I want to truly, truly awaken, get out in the thick of it.
Mm. So I call that when the rubber meets the road. And that to me, so I talk about that in the book, that's real time healing. So when you believe you're in a scenario where you are instantly triggered or find yourself reactive and you're out of peace, there's your gold mine. So when you start to work in there and really allow yourself to truly forgive. Now, I'm not talking about forgiveness. I'm talking about, and this is a Keith Kavanaugh thing, so I have to give him 100% credit. It's this moment unopposed. So that's a very different way to have the idea of forgiveness. Not I forgive what's happening because I get it, you don't, and it's okay. No. That's old paradigm. It's this moment unopposed. So now, if you utilize this moment unopposed, no matter where you are, what you think you're seeing, what's apparently happening, at the minute you don't oppose the moment, now there's your freedom. Now I'm not saying it's going to feel good.
Right.
And I'm not saying the ego is not going to rant and rave and kick up its heels and go, hell no. But what are you going to do with that? As you sort of are in this movement of energy and you're not opposing the moment, you're really allowing yourself to witness it, become the observer. And the more you keep clicking into that awareness, you start to strengthen that muscle. And I know you know this. I mean, I'm sure you've had many experiences, real-time healing, where you're like, okay, I have a decision right here and now. What's this going to mean for me?
I always hear my mom in the back of my head saying, the famous mom saying, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
And that's my reminder to how forgiveness actually works. I don't want to say, well, I like to forgive, but, or if I forgive, he will do this, or no, I'm not. I always hear there's no if, ands, or buts. As you said, just what's here and work with it. Be aware of it. Bring the lens of awareness to it.
That's exactly right. And your reflection that is seemingly triggering you is your gift. It's like, hey, we had an agreement that I'm going to remind you that you are still believing lies about yourself. So don't kill the messenger. Remember that we agreed we're going to help each other go home. So, and Ken Wapnick really talked about this a lot because he was talking about marriage and relationships. And that's some of the best breeding ground for triggers, right? I mean, when you are living with a partner or someone, family where you're close and you're every day, you can't, there's no wiggle room in that reflection unless you choose to not look at it. Right? The minute you blame it and say, well, you're making me feel something, you've lost your power. You've forgotten. This is a reflection showing you where you still have beliefs about yourself that is not true.
Was it Ram Dass, another great teacher for you, who said, if you think you're enlightened, wait until Thanksgiving dinner with your family?
Yes. I mean, dude, that statement has just withstood the test of time, has it not?
It does. Every Thanksgiving, it seems. But it's true. And like you said, these are the people that are everyone. They're giving you that reflection about yourself. They are showing
Yes.
you the thing that you don't like about yourself that you refuse to own, and they'll keep showing it to you and showing it to you and showing it to you.
Hmm. And for fun, when you leave that, say, Bob is there and you're triggered by Bob. So you say, I don't want the gift, Bob. I'm going to remove myself. Those things you see on social media where they say, if someone's bringing you down, you don't want them in your life. It's like, no, it's the opposite. If you notice someone is triggering you, that's your gold mine. No, I'm not saying hang out with them all day long. I'm saying take the gift. Notice, what is it bringing up? Well, I feel anger. Great. Congratulations. It's coming up to be reseen and released and renewed. It's a gift.
And I like how you say you don't have to like it,
No,
and you don't even have to really be very good at it.
no.
And you can acknowledge. It's another thing I love about Ken is uh, just acknowledge that right now you're choosing the ego. Just to not acknowledge that right now you're choosing the wrong teacher, and it's okay as long as you know you're choosing the wrong teacher. Um, you're heading there. You're heading in that direction. Kat, by the way, says you want them, act. Um, she sums it up nicely. That you want these. You do. You want um, the unruly elements, or Carlos Castaneda would call them the petty tyrants, to show up in your life. Your greatest
Right,
teachers.
right. And also, I just saw this post saying something about getting teeth pulled, advice for focusing on something other than the pain. Okay, may I
Yep,
chime in?
sure.
Okay, definitely focus on the pain. Allow the pain to be there. Do not oppose the moment. And when you sit in it and notice, can I notice the pain as the awareness, even if it's for a blip? Can I just sit back in awareness without identifying with this pain, this sensation? Then the moment you feel a little bit of space between noticing the pain and being the awareness of it, there it is, right there. There's that healing aspect where it's like, okay, I was there for a blip. Wow. Try it again. It doesn't mean don't take the magic, whatever you want to do, take the magic, rest, do all that stuff. Do the human stuff. We're not saying avoid it.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say, because I've had so much experience with this, can I just not oppose what I'm experiencing in this now? And the more you take that time to do that, instead of distract and try not to focus, I don't have pain, I don't have pain. You do. Perfect. It's perfect as it is. Everything is for the good. So notice it, be aware of it, play and get curious, as Robert Spear would say. Get curious about it, right? Automatically, when we feel pain, right, we have this massive identification with it. We also think it's bad, it's wrong, this isn't right. So we're good at that. But for shits and giggles, let's take a step back. Let's get curious. Let's notice. And let's see some space. Let's feel that space between the pain, the noticer of the pain, and the space. Just try it.
Eggman, I hope you found that helpful. I know
Yeah.
I appreciated that very much. I would imagine that you, looking at your bio again from bodybuilding, aerial arts, and magic shows, that you've had your fair share of pain,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
injuries, strains, aches. So you've been able to, as you said earlier, where the rubber meets the road, you've been able to actually uh, come about this realization not through not just through reading great books and having great teachers, but from actually being in that position where you have to observe those aches and that pain in order to um, eventually get through it.
Well, 100%. And before, I just wanted, because I just saw him post that. Yes, but so, okay, so in that space where you're the awareness, noticing whatever the sensation is, there's the Holy Spirit, and your mind can come in and see it. You can look at it with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit isn't outside of you. It's you. But sometimes we kind of need that lily pad to jump to before we get to the next lily pad. So, oftentimes when I'm working with clients, I have to say, then call in the Holy Spirit. But the Holy Spirit, in truth, is the aspect of our mind, that bridge between our awareness and what we think we're experiencing. So when you allow that space to come in, the Holy Spirit can come in there, even if, because it's not asking for perfection, it's asking for permission. So it's a big difference. We're not like you said, it's not about doing it perfectly. You're still going to hear the ego. You're still going to feel the pain possibly, but you're exercising now a different way to participate in the game. And I think that's really important. And that's what's starting to shift in consciousness.
It sounds like we are shifting from uh, suffering, which is the psychological aspect of saying I'm in pain and I don't want it. I'd rather
Yes.
not be in pain. That's a great option if you had it, but if you had it, you wouldn't be in pain. Um,
Well, no, I think you brought up a great point. And here's the thing. We've been doing that long enough. So we stretched the rubber band that direction already. But the rubber band can only handle so much. It's going to come back to home. It's going to come back to that homeostasis where it's malleable, pliable. When you stretch a rubber band, it loses its malleability. Now, it definitely has tension, but at some point, it's going to come back into that place of homeostasis. And so we've gone there. Now it's time. We have to look at what we've made. We've made a false self. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy this game, but it's a different way to participate when you remember who you are and what you really truly are.
do you think some of the turmoil that we see in the world right now is part of that awakening that we're being called, and that maybe for the first time ever, there'll be a collective that says enough.
Uh,
I truly want to see things a different way.
Guess what? Everyone listening and everyone that will listen is a part of that spiritual SWAT team. That's the agreement of, okay, let's go in our mind to a dimension of, tactile, visceral form experience, forgetting who we are, and let's remember. And so the souls, the levels of consciousness that are coming into these podcasts are part of that awakening. It's like go team go.
Right,
Like
right.
we're really in the next phase of, yes, let's go. Remember who you are, because when you heal, you don't heal alone.
I love that, and that's going to bring me up to a comment of Kat and Jack. I mentioned Kat. I mentioned my partner watched James and your premiere today, and she says, Yogi, would you tell Ninette how she was the voice of God for me today?
Wow, beautiful.
Um, it's the amazing thing. We can all be that mouthpiece for God uh, when we
Well,
bring that
guess what else
awareness.
is what I think what's beautiful about that is that is it Kat?
Yeah,
Her name Kat. Kat is seeing herself in a reflection that she thinks is something else than other than her. So she's witnessing a contents of her mind. So if she experienced God in whatever she heard, that's her screen of space showing her, that's you, that's in you. You are that. So you are having a love affair with I am. That's what this is all about.
You mentioned I am quite a bit in your book. That's a
Yeah.
focus. You want to touch upon that a little bit?
I mean, I do indeed. I am is all there is. There's I am, which is the collective one. So sometimes I liken it to like a lava lamp. You know, when the heat's not on, there's a ball,
Mhm.
and then the heat comes on, and then all these different parts come to life, but they're the same lava. It's just that this element of heat has come in, and now we're seeing all these different shapes and forms, and some are bigger, some are smaller, but it's all the same. When the heat goes off, when the game is over, there's one awareness that's in you, in me, in Kat, in all of these beautiful souls watching. And that in the course, it specifically says that's really the only gratitude there is. Knowing, being so grateful that we are all the same in truth.
Sameness is a big deal in the course, and it can be sameness can be it can be really misunderstood. Who wants to be the same?
Yes.
Why would let me celebrate my uniqueness. Why would I want to be the same? Uh, but there's a different way of looking at it as a perspective of the course. Do you want to?
Mm-hmm.
When you said sameness, what do you actually mean by that?
Awareness itself. So when I'm, as the Ninette concept, am aware, I go into pure awareness and just notice, right? Awareness has no preference, no perception, no should be better, should be worse. You can't really add or take away from awareness itself. It just is. So that's in you. It's the awareness that decides to put on costumes and say, hey. So I talk about Bernadette Roberts and how she said, consciousness is like a plate. And then all it decides to do is go, you fold the plate, and there you have the game. It's still the same consciousness. The plate hasn't changed. The plate's still the plate. It just made an intention. Oh, now look at me. Oh, look at you. You, me, the one. One. It's the same contents. It's just a different way to express it.
Right. One other thing, I mentioned this at the beginning, and you had just a little bit ago mentioned clients. Your clients, are you working with the frequency release practice?
Yes,
And
I go ahead.
well, we had questions earlier in the first live stream today of what that actually entails, the frequency release. What are you actually doing when, as a practitioner?
Okay. So in a typical session where there is grievance, there's a frequency, there's an energy pattern, right? Or anger, whatever it is in the perceived mind. So we go in and we do exactly what we're talking about, where we sit and feel and do not oppose the moment and let it move through. Now, a lot of clients I have will come to me and say, well, I have my body, this is not working, this is upset. And so we use the vessel to trigger the emotion, because it's always the consciousness is projecting the body. So if you were look at consciousness like a sphere, say, I'm just using, a sort of a symbol. So consciousness is a sphere. It projects the vessel. So consciousness isn't in the vessel. Consciousness is projecting this vessel, which then gets to experience tactile form related existence. So in that, when you have these, a lot of times people like talk about past lives or whatever. Again, we're in that game of consciousness, but let's just go there. When you have stored ideas and stories that are filled with grievance or hate or whatever the contracted energy is, if you don't address it, the vessel gets distorted. So then we go in and use certain things that are upset or not working properly, seemingly in the vessel, to flush up the energy and the motion in that frequency. And then by creating that, not opposing the moment, it comes up. Tears, well, I mean, you know, whatever it is, whatever the story is, it doesn't matter because it's just a story. We want to get to the energy. So it's no different than the Course saying, well, here's your right mind. You're upset. You have a grievance. What are you going to do with that? At any moment, you can decide, am I going to utilize this grievance to show me where I'm still holding a lie about being separate from my source?
It's important to hear that what you're experiencing isn't to be denied or pushed away. It's to be recognized. I like the way you tied that with that Course on making that choice of, are you going to continue choosing? And if you do, it's okay. But you'll continue experiencing what you experience as long as you keep choosing that. And
Exactly.
what the Course offers and what you're offering with the frequency release practitioner is a choice. If you would like to experience something other, then the Course will say, then choose the Holy Spirit. And you're offering practical tools to help people release that held frequency. What tools do you have at your disposal for that?
It's all mind-based. It's all moving. Every session is, I can't plan a session ever because I don't know till that moment what needs to be seen. So when I go into a session with a client, you know, they're thinking one thing is going to happen, but all of a sudden they break down and they're really feeling emotional. So we go in right then and there because I don't know until I know. You know, and I really don't let the Ninette mind as much as possible get in the way. I have to get out of that and be very, very open to hearing, to sensing. What is it? What, you know, and sometimes messages come through and I'm like, okay, I'm going to just share this. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, great. It's all fine. There's nothing to fix other than, as the, you know, as the Course says, we only have one problem. You think you're separate.
Right.
Now, that's easy to say when you're feeling, hey, the minute you are in any way not in peace, that's when you need your tools.
We have a question from Kat. If you could go back and speak to yourself at the beginning of your Course in Miracles journey, what gentle reminder or reassurance would you give?
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, the two things came to mind, so I'm going to be super like just raw about it. I love you, and you are safe to move through this. It is completely safe to do this because I feel like when you choose to step into this path, right, the road less traveled, you are going to be in for some pretty big shakeups. Now, most people, it doesn't happen overnight. It will happen in stages and in phases. And I talk about that in the book, some of the phases that I went through, just so that the reader could see, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Because no, it can just feel like you are in a violent movie in your mind. It can feel very upsetting. So, you know, that's one of the main things that I do with my clients. I keep reiterating to them when they're in a very open state, it is safe. You are completely safe to feel this.
So it sounds like you came to the Course and other healing modalities from a place where at that point you might not have felt safe.
100%. Oh, yeah.
I found very few people who have not arrived to the Course through the path of pain, through the path of some type of suffering. there's obviously some blessed few who have. I wasn't one of them. I,
Love that.
and I take it that you were not either. You had your
No, I chose a curriculum of some very thick, dense energy, you know, and I always, to me, the low-hanging fruit is how you talk about it, you know, especially to yourself. So I always make sure that I am always speaking as the observer. I'm noticing this energy right now. I'm very aware of this, you know, frequency. You know, even with my partner, you know, I speak very, because it's very important to me, because that's, you're setting yourself up when you say, I am ... Well, I'm this, well, I'm that. You're really getting lost in low-hanging fruit branches. So if you can step back and say, okay, hold on, I'm going to change all that. I'm noticing. How interesting that this now is revealing itself. And the more that you exercise that muscle, you start to create, as we were talking about with the, you know, the tooth, the pain, even just in that vernacular, you are starting to shift your consciousness. You're not that. You don't have to identify with the experience. You can observe it, keep pulling back. So that vernacular really helps to do that without even doing it. You know, just kind of using those little sneaky things the ego doesn't know. The ego's like, oh yeah, okay, sure.
right. Our friend Squirrel Sniper has a question. Does your characters ultimately have free will, or are they fulfilling destiny laid out by the narrative itself?
That's a good one. Yes and no. Yes, because at any moment you can make a choice. So there's your free will, in that you get to, any moment you can decide what something's going to mean. And then the no part, but it's not a no, like no, it's just there is a oneness, and the course talks about this, like it's like, it's kind of like non-negotiable, that there is this I amness that is already all things. So there's nothing to really say no to. But if we're in human talking here, you know, this sort of double talk, which, you know, kind of comes with this path, I would have to say that there's a non-negotiable knowingness that we're all going home, and we're already home. But in that mind that thinks it's separate, you have the will to say, that means that I'm choosing that, and you can shift and change your experience and how you participate in a holy instant. Does that resonate?
Yes, it does. It makes me. I thought when you finished, the first thing that came to mind was Yogi Berra, the baseball player, when he said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." And it made me think that if you are experiencing free will, make the best choice. When you think you have free will, just make the best choice. But ultimately, so when we are fully awake from the dream, as long as we're in the dream, even a happier dream, we're going to have that experience of free will. But when we awaken from the dream, there's God's will, and we are part of that. And there's no even consideration of free will or not free will. There's just God's will,
right,
which we are joined with.
So that's what I meant by that no, meaning it's kind of a non-negotiable I am.
Right. Yeah, that's one of my favorite terms, by the way, non-negotiable.
Yeah, I know.
That we had a question here from John. Can you address maintaining or not relationships with family when you don't like them but do love them?
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, that's where the juicy, yummy bits are, right there. Because, you know, in One Foot in Infinity, I address some very specific familial experiences. And it doesn't mean that you know, necessarily have to spend time with them in the physical, but this is where your gold mine is. What does it bring up in you? What is the emotion? What is the narrative that you're telling yourself? And then when you know what the story is and what it's bringing to you, then you can let the story go and you can sit in the sensation of whatever is brewing. Just be aware of it. Don't oppose it. Let it be there. Get curious about it. Just observing. You know, it's almost like a scientist, you know, when they put things together, they don't take it personally. They're like, oh, well, this reacts this way and this is interesting. And they document it and on they move. So you kind of have to get very non-personal about it. And that takes some time. But that's why family and close-knit relationships are the best for waking up, because there's just no getting away from it. I mean, let's say your mother lives in somewhere very far away. Just the thought of her can trigger energy, right? A contractive energy pattern. You don't need to be with them. You just notice what is coming up. Ah, there it is. I'm going to just notice it. And the more you do that, it starts to thin out and thin out and thin out. Now, what starts to happen? When it starts to thin out, you hear very different dialogue about what the role is. Then you can wash their feet, like Jesus did with his disciples. Can I wash this person's feet, look them in the eye, and not feel 1 ounce to trigger? Yes or no? No. Great. Keep going. Allow all of this stuff to come up. And then when you get to that place, oh, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, and then you'll notice, because I've done this work with family, you'll notice it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And then your relationships change because you will see on your screen of space the contents of your own mind. It's you can't, that's non-negotiable.
Two things that I absolutely love is you continuously return to presence. Just be
Right.
present. Just be present in that state of I am. Don't worry if you have a judgment. It's okay. Be present to the judgment. If you're experiencing pain, discomfort, anger, it's okay. You're not punishing. You're not chasing those thoughts away. And I love the simplicity of your message. No matter what's happening, you keep returning back to that. And the other thing I love is washing someone's feet. I love that metaphor. Um, James Twyman, the author, told a story in his recent book of St. Francis. And all his life, he was afraid of lepers until the end of his life, when he had gotten to the point where he saw no difference between him and anything else, not just people, but animals and trees. It was just pure, the loving consciousness of all that is interacting with itself. As you mentioned with Kat and her comment towards you.
Right.
And he, in a spontaneous moment, he leaped from his donkey and embraced the leper. He kissed him on his cheek and bowed down to his feet and was just so happy to greet him. And James Twyman, his comment after that when he told that story was, so who's going to hug the lepers now? Who's going to wash Jesus's feet? Because Jesus is present in everyone that comes in every live stream and everyone that shows up wherever we are. Who's going to wash his feet? If not us.
That's freedom. See, I always say to clients, imagine watching any single monkey dance that comes your way and you feel nothing but pure acceptance. That to me is wealthy freedom. That is rich participation in this field of awareness.
I'm looking at some of the questions here. By the way, John said, this holy instant is salvation come. And that's basically what you keep coming back to.
Yeah.
The presentation of the holy instant that we can
Mhm.
choose at any time.
But here's the kicker, okay? Because we really believe this is real when it feels contractive, right? When we're all happy, feeling light and peaceful, that's one thing. But the second we don't, a lot of this stuff flies out the window. And so this is where, and why I was so guided to write this book, is because for me, it was about practical tools. When I'm in the thick of it, what do I got? What can I grab onto? And sometimes, like the Holy Spirit or whatever, it's just not floating my boat. I just can't grab there. I can't pull it in. So this is what I'm saying. The second you feel something, that is it. There is the crux. And when you can just feel it, just sit. I mean, there are times where I've just sat for an hour with something. Now the latency time has gotten a lot quicker. But when I was moving through some thick, dense stuff, I mean, literally, I'd be sitting there for an hour. I would not move until I could feel, okay, there's some relief here. And now I could say the person's name, or I could think about the scenario and not get triggered. That's when you know the work is done. That's the shadow work. You can't spiritual bypass that.
We talk quite a bit about shadow work and spiritual bypassing, because bypassing is so easy to do. We want to make those spiritual leaps. We want to feel like we're making progress. And it's much easier to feel like we're making progress if we shove something down deep inside and we don't have to think about it. And this is when, again, my inner Ken Wapnick says, nope, you've gone too far. You've gone through the workbook for far too many years to keep doing that. And I'm not going to let you off the hook this time.
You've got your inner Ken.
My inner Ken. He's gotten tough with me. I don't
Dude,
always...
and you sound like him a little bit. When you talk sometimes, I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm listening to Ken. It's awesome.
What your journey with the course? They say that the course is basically a bestseller because people buy repeated copies after they throw it away the first dozen times. So how was it with you? Was it opening it up and saying nope and putting it aside, or did you know this was your answer? This was your ticket home?
I knew it was a big chunk of it because I didn't like it. So I knew I'm always one, if I get overwhelmed by it, that's why I liked learning skills, because I get overwhelmed and I know, oh, there's fruitage here for you. So you get to step into this. So same with the course in my spiritual path. I've always known, okay, if you are in any way shaken by it, it's for you. And you need to go in as much as the ego says, oh, no. I'm like, no, I'm going in. So it happened in gradations with the course. I definitely stuck with it for many, many years, and then I needed a break. So I took about 2 years of just sort of, and I think I talk about in the book, I kind of just stood back. And then what I noticed was that as these 2 years were unfolding, and I'm working with clients or chatting with, my partner and stuff, these phrases coming out from the course. And I'm thinking, okay, now you're starting to embody it. That's a different way than turning to it and going, nothing I see means anything. Okay, nothing. And that's part of it too. Sometimes we kind of got to go, hit ourselves over the head a few times with it, or multiple. But that's what I noticed. It was becoming a part of my being. And
that's when it takes hold, isn't it? That's when it becomes such a beautiful experience.
It really does. It really does.
I started reading books about the course in the late '80s and then the early 90s. And I bought the course probably 94, 95.
Okay. Wow.
And I didn't make it through the workbook and the text until 2007. Um,
Way to
so it was,
go.
but I knew all along. I used to go to self-realization fellowship meetings with a friend, and one day before we went, we were having a cup of coffee together, and he said, "So what is it? What's our path to complete awakening? Is it doing, yoga as offered by Self Realization Fellowship, or is it Buddhism? Because we would go to some Buddhist lectures. This was, I think, 2002 or so. And without any hesitation, I don't know where it came from. I said, for me, it's A Course in Miracles. I knew. But
Right.
as you said, I didn't like it. And
No. Well, and I mean, when I was talking with James, we were talking, and I'm like, well, Jesus didn't come here in the game to be, best friends with people. He came with a message to wake up consciousness in the game. And the course is no different. It's not about liking it. It's about if you are gravitated to it, then there's something there for you. Because
James,
again, go ahead.
go ahead, finish up, please.
No, I was just going to say that because ego, that isn't you, will have a lot to say about it. Because as you're studying the course, the ego is studying it with you. So it's going to have its opinion about it.
That's an important point you just made. And I don't know if I ever thought about it that way. The ego is definitely studying it with me and has a different view on all of the matters. It's the voice of nope, not that, not that.
Yeah,
Maybe a
no,
little bit of this. Can I twist it to make it work for me?
100%.
Well, um, sometimes I love every conversation I have with everyone, and I'm very much enjoying this. But sometimes in the midst of a conversation, I guess we'll say something, and I think that's why they're here because I needed to hear that.
That's
Um,
great.
so, you know what? I get a feeling after this conversation tonight, I'm going to have Ken Wapnick over here, and I'm going to have Ninette over here.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Um, did James ever tell you about his work with the course?
No.
He didn't understand it or particularly like it until his breakthrough with some plant medicine.
Right.
And then it all made sense. And he dove in with a smile. Sometimes you just need something to break that ego down just a little bit.
Well, I love that we're talking about this because in the beginning we were talking about intention. So think about this. The birthing of the course came through an intention of Bill to go to Helen and say, can we experience something different? And because of that intention, it broke open Helen, who was a very type A, professor and blah, 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 she had her thing and didn't really want anything to do with it once she started channeling because, even though she had some very intimate experiences with the consciousness of Jesus, it was birthed on intention. And so if we look at everything, even now I'm getting into the biblical sense, but I'm just using it to kind of bounce off of here. The 6 or 7 days of creation or whatever, the seventh day was the rest day, but all of that's intention based. I, the awareness, the is, intends. So I think that's a really important key point to remember that if you can keep working in the mind, because this is something I still do, I'm still doing the work. Of course I am. There's no finish line here. It does shift and change, but if you can remember, nothing is happening to you. It's an intentional based experience. Now, there is a very powerful seat to sit in when you're feeling upset or triggered. You can sit in and sort of bathe in that. Well, hold on. Everything around me is intentionally based. Everything I use every day was an intention before it was a thing, right? If we look around our room and go, oh, cup, table, whatever, computer, it was all an intention prior to form. So I think that's a really important aspect to remember, and I find it very helpful.
Yeah, I love that you keep coming back to the intentions. Intentional. Uh, Reminds me of, Carlos Castaneda talking about the field of intent, that it is as similar as gravity, as any other force, vibrational pattern that we have. And it's underused and misused at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned early in the conversation, how we keep saying I am. Um, and we're literally using that field of intent to create an experience that we don't want, with that declaration of I am angry, I am overweight, I am this and I am that. And we're literally creating the condition that we no longer want in our lives.
And again, and I love that you said that, and that's okay too, because you will until you won't. Right? I mean, it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye.
That was good.
Right? And I mean, think about that. It's like, okay, you're going to do it until you don't going to do it. And that's okay. The main thing is that the judgments, you just, until you realize and get sick of it, you'll keep judging until you just stop it. And everything is safe to feel. Everything is safe to notice because you made it. I liken it to, for fun, it's like you chose the color blue and the fabric and you made an outfit, and then you put it on, you look in the mirror and you scream and you go, why isn't it red? And it's like, well, but you bought the fabric and you chose the color and you made it blue. So, and then we kind of forget and go, ah. So I find that funny.
Life changing. Realize what you don't want. Realize that you really wanted that red dress.
Yeah.
Nothing changed until we become aware of it.
And what a way to participate.
Sniper had another question. First off, John says, good combo of ideas. She's not pinned to one philosophy. I think that's good, open, and available to new knowledge.
Okay. I appreciate that.
And Sniper says, have you heard that maybe Golgotha isn't a physical place, but as a state of consciousness, spiritual location within the individual, where the old self is crucified for a spiritual awakening?
Okay, say that again because you cut out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you heard that maybe Golgotha isn't a physical place, but as a state of consciousness, spiritual location within the individual, where the old self is crucified for a spiritual awakening?
Okay, so they're asking, well, yeah, because you're talking now about levels of dimension and different levels of consciousness. We're sort of looking at that whole, I mean, even Jesus in the Course says, I can't even begin to tell you all the levels of consciousness. So, yes, of course, anything's possible. Now, just because we're pointing our mind seemingly in this one projection, it doesn't mean that there's other aspects going on, which we know. And dreaming in the slumber state is definitely a microcosm of that. I mean, when you dream in the slumber state, you're having completely different experiences. Sometimes there's crossover, but that's consciousness itself. It's all one. So, yes.
What are your thoughts on other dimensions of how things play out? We talked earlier, the beginning of the conversation,
Yeah.
on extraterrestrials, and how does this all? What's the cosmology of Ninette? Ninette.
Well, that's pretty funny. Well, I think in the beginning we talked about the ETs And I said, well, that's us coming to us, showing us ourselves. Just like in this paradigm, we're not really here. We're fragments of the one reflecting back, right? So if you're going to take that, so that's a microcosm. So if we macrocosm that out to another level, the same would apply. That if you're going to in the game see an extraterrestrial land their ship on in your backyard, that's a reflection of your mind. That's the contents of your mind showing your mind. Here's a way to interact with self. So what's it going to mean for you? What's the decision? And since everything I see really doesn't mean anything other, and what's it for is for forgiveness, meaning we don't oppose the moment. Notice what it is. What does it feel like? Get curious about this whole thing. But we tend to get very serious about, well, it means this, and it means that, and that means that, right? But the minute we use that lesson one, I don't know what anything means. How can I possibly know what anything's for when I'm in this one POV of expression? But now if I open up and say, well, I don't know what anything's for. So when I'm in my backyard and then an alien lands their ship in my backyard, well, there I am. God and drag coming out of the spaceship, and we're gonna interact.
I mentioned this. I think this will be the third time I mentioned this. I absolutely love that you are unshakable in your message. Whatever is here is here. Don't have to deny it. We don't have to argue it. We just accept it as here, and our lesson is forgiveness. Our lesson is love. Our lesson is to wash the feet of Jesus.
Exactly.
Really, it lets you off the hook. I don't have, not only do I not know anything, I don't have to know everything.
Well, now, Eric, that's a great point. So think about that, what you just said. That takes you off the hook. So let's go now back to scripture in supposed history. I need do nothing. Now we chose to have this experience of, oh, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make that stuff happen. Okay, that was fun. We stretched the rubber band there, great. But now we're coming back to truth. I need do nothing. I just notice. I remember my truth and then watch my screen of space light up. It doesn't mean you ignore, and I'm not spiritually bypassing. I'm not being delusional. I'm being presence. And the minute I keep going there, I will strengthen that muscle, that knee-jerk reaction or response to be like, I don't know what this is for. I'm just going to observe. Now, it doesn't mean the ego's going to go, it doesn't mean your stomach's not going to be in a knot, or you're going to get tight in the throat, or your headache, whatever. That's just what's apparently happening because you're the awareness. And the more we can really engage in that pliability of mind, look at the difference in consciousness in this collective, how that would affect how we interact. Huge.
Isn't it like a great big sigh of relief when you see that? And you truly know that you need not do anything.
Yeah.
It's like a holy sigh. Your shoulders drop down towards the earth a little bit. All that tension leaves your mind, leaves your body. And it brings tears where,
it does.
I mentioned earlier today, Julian of Norwich, all is well, and all matters, all is well. And that's the way it feels when you get that realization. It doesn't mean the ego disappears. It doesn't mean, like you said, that you don't get that constriction in the throat or your stomach's in knot. It just means that deep down, all is well. Even if you don't believe it right now, you have that knowingness that all is well, all is well.
Well, and I'm so glad you said that, because that's where it's not looking for perfection, it's looking for permission. So the minute you see 1 degree of a shift, like you said, okay, I might be upset, seemingly noticing, but I am still allowing my mind to say, I'm the awareness. There I am. There it is. Now you're much more open now to hear guidance very quickly than if you make everything real and know what everything's for. It's a very constrictive place to be. Now, so you haven't read the cameos, or you have? Have you
I have
glossed
not.
through them?
I've
Okay,
glossed through
glossed through
some
them.
of them.
There was a beautiful cameo in the cameos where now they had been working with the course and, you know, working through, and all the chapters were coming into play and was being edited. And Helen said to Jesus when she was channeling or when it was coming through, we have a study to do in the university, but now I'm seeing things differently. How am I supposed to conduct this study? Because she's been feeling a lot of torn now. She, you know, she's remembering, she's being shown, she's learning, right? She's doing all of this stuff. And Jesus said, do the study as if you do the study. But every person that comes in, see them as your brother and sister, see them as the light. And so they did that. And what a different response from the study participants and the participation of Helen and Bill. It was a completely different experience just from a shift of perception. It didn't mean that they weren't feeling awkward and weird, but they kept that in their space, in their field. This is my brother. This is my sister. We are one.
I feel like you just gave me permission to be awkward and weird. Um, and I appreciate that. Very, very much so. And um, such a beautiful story. And
Oh,
it really, that brings me back to Kenneth Wapnick talking about, you know, sure, on this level, have boundaries, do what's necessary, or be awkward, be weird, but
mhm.
just know that on the level of spirit, there's no awkwardness, there's no weirdness, there is no need, no such thing as boundaries. But here on this level, we do what needs to be done. We
Mhm.
we chop wood, we carry water.
Mhm.
Um, but on that level of spirit, on that level of God, the level of love, um, we don't need to chop wood. We don't need to carry water.
It evens the playing field out to this glass-like lake. You know, you've seen pictures, or maybe you've been somewhere where there's this lake and it's at the, you know, nighttime. It's just like this gorgeous, you know, like that beautiful saying in the Bible where, you know, you're being carried through a meadow by a beautiful flowing, you know, lake, or a still stream. That's what it feels like when you're new to this. These sort of things that we're saying feel very far-fetched. They feel like very unreachable, unattainable. But let me tell you something. Right now in this game, it's about consistency. Now that could change, right? The more we implode and remember, it's going to change how we experience the holodeck. But right now in the holodeck, consistency is where you feed and fuel that next, the ladder. Jesus talks about the ladder in the
Right.
course. And it's more like a spiral. That's why I use the spirals in the book instead of chapters, because it is. There's this winding going on. So it's very important that we remember that.
So how did you get here? How did you get to this point where you had this? Um, you just knew that what you know.
Doing the work. I wasn't one of those like, hey, dang. Yeah, no. It was rolling up my sleeves in my mind and utilizing every grievance, everything. And I do address that in the book. I move through some family stuff, which I think everyone will be able to relate to, where I was shown this is your holy instant. Are you going to take it or not? And then this next, there it is. What are you going to do? And I just did the work. I was very consistent, but learning skills, you get really good at being consistent, because if you want to experience the skill at a high level, you have to be consistent, right? You can't just do it for a week and think you're going to be whatever you have, right? So it's a day in, day out thing. So for me, that comes a little bit easy, but when you're dealing with emotion, it's a whole other thing.
David Hawkins talking about the levels of consciousness. He wrote Power versus Force. He mentioned that around the 90 lesson mark, people deeply committed to the course, around 90 lessons, their brain begins to change, literally change. And if that happens at the 90-day mark, by the time you hit 365, and maybe every time repeated, diving back into the book, even more so and more so, eventually, I like to think that we become the color that we were meant to be. The more we dive in, to that. I keep thinking, when Native Americans in Southwestern tribes wanted to take a piece of canvas and dye it a particular color, they'd put it in a vat of red ink, red dye, and take it out, and you wouldn't notice anything. And it would dry, and they'd put it back in, they take it out, and repeated, you start to notice a little bit and a little bit and a little bit until eventually it became red. And every time we dive into the course, every time we dive into the Seth material, every time we dive into these books that have stood the test of time, they're actually beyond books. They're a living energy.
They are.
I think that I think it might be safe to say that your book provides a bridge. I think that it's an important. Actually, can you touch upon that? What can your book, for those who are interested? Kat has been dropping the link for your website and your book.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Throughout the conversation. So if you could tell the readers, what does your book offer?
Well, I think the main thing is that it's a portal. It's to be experienced. So yes, I will share a few stories, but only to have it be relatable, because we all understand experiences. We've all had similar with family or loved ones or whatever the scenario is. We all understand anger, grievance, pain, sad. We get all that. So I touch on that, and then I move through a very practical way in which you can utilize that. And then at the end, I have they're very similar to Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. I will take certain arguments, siblings, money, and it's a recoding of how you can re-see it. And then there's a whole 90-day express wake up. So every day it's a new theme. It's a new practical tool. It keeps you accountable. So if you're willing and game, it's very similar to the course, but it's not 365, it's 90 days. And I also have them on the YouTube, One Foot in Infinity, and I actually talk and speak, and it's on an Audible, and there's sigils you can work with where they have a tone and a theme, and you can really do some eye gazing with it and feel the resonance of the audio. So it's a very immersive tool.
I'm glad you mentioned sigils, because excuse me, as I was going through your book online, you start each chapter with a sigil, right?
Yes.
That said, it's always intrigued me. Before we get into that, though, I love the fact that you mentioned that we just talked about David Hawkins and the 90 days, 90 lessons, and that you offer 90 days. That seems to be an important time frame for the brain to literally rewire itself for this type of understanding.
Yeah. New neurological pathways. If you stay consistent with something, it's no different, honestly, than, let's say you want to be good at baseball and you hold a bat a certain way and you're hitting, and then your coach says, just turn your thumb a little to the left, and you'll never not know now how to hold that back. That will be in you viscerally, right? You can never not know that. And so I feel like, to me, that's what I've always, when I was really, really seeking, it's like, what can I digest that I'll never not know? I want to be able to grab from Joel Goldsmith 10 years from now and say, Joel would say that. It's in there. Like with Ken, you got your inner Ken.
Could you touch upon the sigils as well? How has this been?
Yes.
How has this been an important tool for you?
Well, in the meat suit, we have these senses. Now, these senses aren't just senses; they are, highly intentional and high intelligence. And so, when we start to use them in a different way by just allowing, so these sigils, when they came through the book, they were happening in real time, where I was moving through something, and then I would, feel it and put it together and be like, okay, that's for that spiral. That goes with that spiral because there's a code in there. So when you allow yourself, you know how the course says, do the lessons, don't try to figure it out because your ego will want that. Just do them, right? So, and it gets you to kind of step back. And so that's what my intention is with the book. It gets you to just step back a little and tune in to a kind of a phasey aspect of the visual and the hearing and the just trying to know everything. Just kind of sit back a little and let it bathe you. You're being invited to use these senses in a very different way. And at first, it's going to feel very anti habitual. I'm not going to say anti intuitive because I don't feel that way. I feel like it's anti habitual. It's just a habit. But once we allow ourselves to try something a little different, we're going to have these little, we're going to have these little epiphanies that are going to start to pop around us like bubbles.
So you're working on many dimensions at once.
All the time.
You're really offering a multi-dimensional 90-day lesson plan. It's a beautiful offering.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Scroll Up, I wanted to know if you could confirm that fear blocks your intuition. And you had mentioned intuition just a moment ago.
No. Fear is gold. Fear is there to show you that you are intuitive. So you get to sit and feel it and be curious about it and notice and exercise this, because we're all really good at not doing it. Okay, so we've perfected not doing it. So now let's try something new. Let's sit back and just allow it to be there. What is it showing you? What are we fearing? What's the narrative? Just notice. Let it be okay. The more you allow, then it has no power. It gets thinner and collapses on itself. And so that's why on the cover I talk about, timeline jumping. We're actually jumping when we allowed it something to be seen. It's getting collapsed. It collapses on itself because it's smoke and mirrors. Right? So there's that ring of fear. Just allow yourself, go right in the middle of it. Sit in it. And it will not last. And to that degree, you will have allowed it to be there. And then the next time, if there's a next time, there might never be a next time. But if there is, for most of us there is, now you get to look at it that next degree. And then that next degree. So that's why it's like a spiral. It's sort of like this peeling, as we know, like in layers and layers.
Let's see here. He says, Stephen says, talking first level, not even looking within, still a part of the program. Um,
Is that a question?
I think it's an add-on to what you were saying. Uh,
Okay.
I think Sniper, if you want to, could you clarify that a little bit? And in the meantime, Adam says, question: do you think there's two different types of fear?
No, there's only one blanket separation. From that belief of separation, you'll make whatever it is you want to make. So maybe I'll correct that. Sure, there could be 10 different kinds of fear. It's up to you. You get to make whatever you want to make. And I know that's hard to hear sometimes when you're like, but why would I choose that? So that's a big sort of okay. You are being shown where you're still believing in separation. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So that upset is setting you up to remember your truth, but you've got to do the work. There's see that you can't get around that. Not right now. Now in 10 years or 5 or maybe next year, everything changes. But right now, where we are in the energy pattern of our relationship with our emotions and that whole construct, we have to do the work.
Um, Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian shamanistic art, mentions the four levels. They're the four layers, the four levels of consciousness. Life is happening to me, where we're choosing by default, and it sucks. Life is happening for me, which is a little bit above. It sounds nice. Life is happening for me. And then the third is life is happening through me, which now we're a channel for something a little higher. We're a channel for love.
I love
But
that.
then we get to the point that fourth level is life is happening as me. And that first level, that again, we're choosing by default. And it's not a place of power. And what you keep pointing to is step into your power, step into that choice, be an intentional creator instead of creating by default.
And remember, it might not feel like you think it should feel. So remember that and be okay with that. That's why doing the awareness work is essential. Because if you can be aware that, oh, this feels very funky, or I feel out of sorts, okay, that means it's working. That means the ego's like, oh, hell, I'm being annihilated to a certain degree. It's going to act up. Now, I love how you touched on Ho'oponopono because I have changed it for myself. And I'd like to share that because I was thinking about this last night, so it's so funny. So I start with, I love you. I see you. All is forgiven. Thank you.
I like that.
Because I know the Course talks about, please forgive me. And so there's this sort of asking and a begging and I think that's, and we kind of stand on the shoulders of all of these wonderful wisdom teachings. And that's what they're there for. They're there to be reinterpreted.
I've never done this before. I'm going to write that down.
Oh, I love that.
And I love you.
I see you. All is forgiven. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. That was beautiful.
Well,
again, one of those moments where I think the whole reason this has been arranged was for me to write this down. And I bet you everyone in this conversation has had the same thing somewhere along the line where I know Kat has because she's mentioned it, that you've said just the right thing. That, and this is the second time for Kat because she watched you with James.
That's right.
Earlier. So Kat's my partner, by the way.
I love that.
And Kat mentioned that I'm doing a tapping Ho'oponopono tomorrow on my members live stream. So we're going to do the EFT tapping as we repeat the phrases. But I think we're going to do one round of traditional Ho'oponopono and one round of
Reinterpreted.
reinterpreted. And I like that name, reinterpreted.
Yeah, because that's what everything's for. And also, we're here to walk each other home. And I did want to touch on specialness. I don't know how long we're going here, but I know the course we talked about the specialness. But I think it's important to remember, especially in the game, because we still believe part of our mind is expressing itself as a human. You are special because there is only I am. So when you look at it from that perspective, not special, that person isn't special. I'm not talking in separation special. I'm talking about remembering the divine. I mean, this is it. This is the only show in town. And when you remember, wow, I am meeting the I am wherever I go. This is the only show in town. You can't get more special than that. I mean, you can take, the medicines and all these things and these experiences, but there's no experience quite like believing you're a human in this hologram. I mean, it is a trip and a half.
It is. I remember I went to Catholic school,
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember being told that I am a holy child of God, and thinking, "Oh, awesome, awesome." And then the very next out of the priest's mouth was, "And you are," pointing to someone else. "You are a holy child of God." And I went, "Oh, that's not fair." I thought I was a holy child of God.
That's awesome.
What's the deal with this
Aw.
guy? Um, and that's the special relationship that we make with everyone. But as you said, when you are truly a holy child of God,
Mhm.
and we're at play with ourselves uh, through life. What a great recognition, and what a beautiful way of going through life. I love the story you told about Helen. Uh,
Oh, yeah. It's a juicy, one day I would love to be able to produce, maybe even direct um, a movie about the making and make it like you're watching a movie and maybe a musical, but of how Helen and Bill came together. Because it's such a high vibrational story, because it's all stories, but it's very high vibrational. And I find myself coming back to it a lot when I do chat with people about the course, because I think it's something that's kind of overlooked, how it all came about.
I hope you do.
Yeah, I'd love to.
So, if people were interested in reaching out to you and working with you personally, they can find you on
Yes.
your website. You're
Yes,
still
so I
taking
wanted,
clients.
yeah. I'm offering, if any of your podcaster sweet souls, purchase the book before November 15th, I'm offering up to the end of the year half off the IM sessions. And I just think that they're so powerful and they're just beautiful. And so I really wanted to extend that offer, and they can just take a picture of their receipt and say, yeah, I bought it before
Oh,
on the 15th. And then they have up to the end of the year to schedule a session with me at half price. So it's a great way to get introduced to the work.
okay. And as mentioned, Kat has dropped your link several times, and
Thank
it's
you, Kat.
also in the description. So, uh, Ninette is very easy to find.
Yeah.
On a personal note, bodybuilding. I trained for as a teenager for uh, teenage Mr. Baltimore, teenage Mr. Annapolis, and I chickened out each time.
How come?
The posing, the diet. I just it was mostly the posing and the briefs. As a very shy teenager,
Okay.
I I thought I just don't think I could do it. I loved the work. I even didn't mind the diet because it was part of the game, but
Right.
I just could not do. I couldn't get on stage.
Do you have pictures?
No, I have some pictures of um, bigger days. I have pictures of when I was a 220-pound powerlifter.
Oh, I'd
Um,
love to see that.
and I've used it as my profile, my thumbnail several
Okay.
times. And people are like,
Wow.
is that Yogi or is that Hulk Hogan? Because I had really long hair. And it was just starting to go south a little bit at that time. So there was some Hulk Hogan similarities. Um,
You know the work though. You know the kind of discipline that it takes.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, I was how far international or national competitions?
Yeah, so I was Miss Universe, and then I did NPC, and I won the physique and stuff. I did quite well. That was my intention. I just wanted to experience it. Now I started in my mid 40s, so I knew I was not going to do it till later, even though I'd started at 19.
Right.
And then life kind of took over, whatever. So I thought, don't worry, because you're going to do it later. I just kept hearing that. And then when my first marriage had ended, I got into bodybuilding with my partner that I'm with now. And I'm like, I'm going to go as far as I can before I have to start doing crazy steroids and testosterone. Like, I just didn't want to go. I wanted to experience as high level as I could before I had to go there.
Right. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, and Kat's gonna laugh at me. I'm Facebook friends with Sharon Bruno and Anja Langer,
Okay.
if you remember them, both placing in the top 10 in Miss Olympia back in the.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I think Anja Langer was in the 80s and Sharon Bruno was in the 90s. Um, I'm always trying to impress Kat with the sort of semi-obscure people, semi-famous people that um, that I'm friends with on Facebook. So far, she's not impressed.
Impressed.
She's not impressed. Like I'm Facebook friends with Van Morrison's ex-wife, and she's like, that's not as impressive as you think it is.
No.
No, it isn't. But it's all I have,
Yeah, gotta run with it.
and something worked with Kat because she's my partner. So
That's right.
I like to think that it was being friends with Van Morrison's ex-wife.
I'm
Uh,
gonna say it was.
thank you, thank you, Kat. Did you hear that? We have it
Yeah.
confirmed. We have it confirmed. Um, so I'm going to leave it up to you. If we're at almost 1 hour 45 minutes, if you want to
Yeah.
talk for another 20 minutes total, you would break James's record as the guest that has been on for the longest. Uh, James doesn't have much of an ego, but the little bit that he has.
That's funny. Oh, that's good. Wow. Well, I mean, I say we go for it.
All right, let's open things up for some questions.
Yeah, I'd love
Uh,
that.
Straight up, guys. Do you have? I know we've been doing questions throughout, but if anyone has questions, um, and so you are a vocalist as well and a dancer,
Yes.
and I've actually been to your. One thing we haven't mentioned, and I know it's still in development, that you do have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I have one for Ninette and then one for One Foot in Infinity. It's just getting its legs, obviously. And that's where all of the interactive stuff is.
So if you would like to subscribe to her channel,
Yeah,
um,
please. That'd be great. I'd love the visitors.
and what I would do after the live stream, I'll go to your channel and I'll put it in the description to make it easier
Oh,
for
okay.
people.
Yeah.
Um,
And on my personal YouTube, I do have a lot of hi-fi original music because I compose. So they can go in and there's a lot of spiritual music, but it's like funk and disco and reggae. Like, I kind of have a lot of fun with it. And it would be something I think people would really enjoy.
how long have you always been a musically
Yeah.
any instruments or vocalists? Just vocalists or
Piano, to write with. And then I
right?
studied Latin percussion for
Oh,
3
wow.
years in music college.
Um, Kat says, question: when you encounter resistance, that subtle pull of wanting to be right, What helps you soften back into love?
Notice it. I'm going to stick to my guns here because it's really all that we have, because that's all we are in truth. So when you really allow yourself just to notice, there's that aspect wanting to be right. Okay. There you are. It's okay. Because the minute you notice what you've made, it will dissolve. It doesn't mean, again, that you're not going to hear some flapping lips from the ego. But the minute you say, okay, it's not about being perfect, it's about allowing myself permission to just be the observer, the fruitage will happen. You've got to trust that process. And I know it feels foreign, but the more you do it, because I can honestly say now when stuff comes up, like something came up this morning, I saw something on Facebook, seemingly random, completely took me over. I mean, I thought my head was going to explode. And so I had to sit there for 15 minutes. I wept. It all was coming out and I could just feel it moving through, and I just let it and let it. I wanted to rip my face off, but I was just like, okay, here it comes. Just let it, let it go. And then the more I do it, the latency time is very quick. I mean, something like that, if I had seen that, 5 years ago, I would have been upset for a month. So it does pick up.
Adam wants to know, is your healing technique similar to Reiki?
It's all over the map. It's whatever it needs to be, because I am a Reiki master, actually. But again, whatever is intuitively guided, what is needed at that time will present itself, and the fruitage will occur.
And Score Sniper says, what do you enjoy most about the process of narrating audiobooks and doing other voiceover work?
What was the first part?
What do you enjoy most about the process of narrating the audiobooks and doing other voiceover work?
That's a great question. It comes to life in a different way. And I do like when I buy a book on Audible and it's the author that is narrating, because there's a connection there that you can't have as a hired gun, say, but when it's the author. So I really wanted to make sure that, I was doing it for the book, because there's a different frequency there and you see it come to life in a different way. And that's kind of a fun process.
I like that. I have a question for you on course-related books. Do you have books that aren't the course but are favorite authors, John Mundy, Marianne Williamson, that have spoken to you, or maybe before you studied the course, pointed you in that direction?
DU.
I thought you might say that. That was an important book for me as well. That was the catalyst in 2007, where I read that. I could tell you all kinds of stuff about the course for a very long time before I made it through the course.
Right.
Because I loved reading books about the course, but I couldn't get through the text or the workbook for the longest time. I think maybe I might have made it up to, maybe even to 200 lessons. And for whatever reason,
Right.
it would, and I was very much committed to my meditation practice, my yoga practice. And I was still committed to the course, but there was blocks.
Right.
And the catalyst of suffering that was going on in my life, and then reading Gary Renard, and then getting that understanding. This is what I've been reading, and this is also what I've been resisting. And everything broke open, and it brought so much joy into my practice of the course. At that point, there was, I don't want to say there was no more struggle, but there was no more struggle with the struggle.
That's good. That is a very profound piece of literature for this, at this, particular time in the game. And I know that he knew that. It's like, when the Beatles wrote a hit song, they knew in the recording studio, this is a hit song.
Right.
And I'm sure, and I know because I've heard him talk about how in the beginning people were like, okay, this is crazy, but it will find its way, and it did, just like the course, And similar to Joe Goldsmith, he would write a book and he'd be like, it's just going to get to where it needs to go. I have to just trust that. And of course, it's become timeless. So that book, and I think the main ingredient, of course, it's the story, and that's great. But because he did that audible and did it in his very unserious, he's got that, very flippant kind of fun, that holds a frequency that is undeniable. And you either dig it or you don't dig it.
Right.
But I really appreciated it so much because he was like, yes, oh, okay, well, all right, yeah. And it's like, yeah, that's how we feel. We're like, yeah, okay. I mean, are you there?
I'm there.
Okay.
We blinked out. We blinked out for a second.
Okay. When Jesus says in the chorus, I'm looking for teachers to reinterpret this. I need relatable people to reinterpret what I'm saying. And he's very matter of fact about that. And that's what Gary Renard did beautifully.
He did.
Yeah.
I think probably more people, not even as an introduction, but saw the course quite clearly for the first time, reading. And other people have said it's just rehash of Kenneth Wapnick. And Gary pretty much says, you're right. Wapnick was the man.
The man.
He, and his teachers said the greatest course teacher is Kenneth Wapnick.
Yeah.
So this is something else. This is a tough question. He says,
Okay.
I'm an artist, rocker, punk, and drug user. I function, but as I get older, I notice that my lifestyle confuses, enrages, or disturbs people, but I'm happy in my little world. How do I cope with that? How could I cope?
How could you cope with that? Well, all that matters is what is that making you feel? What is showing up for you when you think about something like your life that you feel you have to justify your choices and what you're doing? Look at that. What is coming up? And again, you got to remember, nothing is outside of you. So whatever you're noticing is the contents of your own mind. And the more we can really sit in that, we start to see, this is showing me something that needs to be released. It's not the truth. Because if there's nobody outside you, what are you justifying? So there's something in your mind that believes in justification, that I need to cope. Get curious about that. What is that meaning? What meaning are you giving that? And notice. And just be present with it. Because the minute you're present, you'll see, you'll be like, okay, wow, I didn't quite see it that way.
This is something else. I hope that proves helpful for you. That was beautifully said.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Adam, this was for both of us. What are both of y'all's toughest lessons, if there was one?
What was the toughest lesson for me?
Yep.
Outside recognition. Believing that there's something outside of me that will determine my worthiness. Because being a performer, choosing the experience of being a performer, when you're in an ego mindset, it's constantly looking for validation. So it's an addiction. So when you notice, what am I performing for? Who am I performing for? So when you start to wake up, you realize, there's nobody out there. So I can't just perform for God, for the isness. I see. There's a whole worthiness that's unraveling as for choosing to be a performer. And what's the purpose? Like the Course says, what's the purpose? Everything you're going to say, do, participate in, ask yourself before you engage, what's the purpose? That changes your decision and then your action. So for me, it was being a performer and saying, what are you doing it for? What are you looking for? Validation? And it was a big kicker for me. It was great because it was one of the bigger flush ups, you know?
It's funny how that can change those little reinterpretations, change the way we've been doing something our entire life. How long have you been a performer?
Since I was 5.
And yet, getting that point where you could repurpose, when you could see the actual purpose, how did that change your, as you were saying, um, your performance? That before you might have been performing for people, for individuals, for an
Mm-hmm.
audience,
Mm-hmm.
but now you're
Free.
performing for something greater.
It's freedom, and you realize that the whole canvas is now completely open. You don't need to judge what you're doing. You don't need to second guess what you're doing, because whatever is coming through when you are opening up to that isness of I'm just performing for isness, everything opens up. So I started noticing, wow, I'm singing a lot more confidently. I don't really care what I do or what action. I'm not overthinking things. I'm just present. And then you notice that the people watching you seemingly are coming up and really resonating and saying, wow, I really enjoyed that, because they feel the authenticity of your presence. You can't fake that. You cannot fake presence.
I'm not a performer, but we have sort of spontaneously started singing here on my channel, uh, to the point where now we're having Saturday sing-alongs, bring you song,
I love
um,
that.
and I would never have, up until several months ago, if you said you're going to sing on YouTube, I would have said nope, it's not going to happen. Uh, I I don't mind singing in private, but um, I just never could have thought that I would sing, you know, on the internet where it's going to be there forever. Um, but I found myself spontaneously singing. As a matter of fact, Nature's Dog Realms is here. Her and I do once a month singing TV theme songs and commercials from the
Dude.
60s, 70s, 80s. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you're saying, you no longer, it's spontaneous now.
Yeah.
It's that joyful. Um, I'm not singing to please. I'm singing because there's a song in my heart that just wants to be released.
Well, and here's the thing. I was so used to, because when I was living in LA, I'm from Toronto, but when my first husband and myself moved to LA, we were performing, for big shows, and we had a record thing. We were just doing, it was very different. And then when all of that shifted, and my partner now we moved to a different place, and I was singing for, 20, maybe 10, depending on, like 5 people, because I was just singing in a little pizza joint. That's a real eye opener. Going from these big shows, very impersonal, right? Because you're dealing with thousands of people, you're up on this big stage, there's not really this intimacy. And then going to this tiny little pizza joint, singing, and there's 3 people standing, like sitting there staring at you, and they're 5 feet away. So you're really getting it was a whole learning thing for me. It was just so beautifully unfolded, so beautifully.
One of the things I think is completely awesome in your description is, as you mentioned, the national stage, bodybuilding, the aerial arts, and magic shows, that they all were stepping stones to
Oh
that
yeah.
awakening art. When was it that you could see that these were stepping stones?
I think it was when I was, you know, going from these big stages to these intimate little joints, realizing, okay, wow, you are not happy. You're noticing all of these grievances coming up. Like, I was this, you know, you just go down the list. This, so woe is me. You start to see, gosh, that's in my mind. Like, this is a narrative that's going on in your suffering. So it really made me take a hard look. And I was playing with a keyboard player that was very interesting. We'll just say that. So it was another level of, girlfriend, you need to wake up. What's going on in your mind?
Do you have, well, let me ask this question for Sniper. What's your favorite magician?
My partner.
Okay.
He's amazing.
What type of magic does he perform?
Well, we have a magic show that we perform, and it's like an I Love Lucy, Desi Arnaz meets David Copperfield. So, because he's Latin American, so it's this whole song and dance with big illusions, and it's very funny and very silly.
Kat, as a redhead, absolutely loves Lucille Ball. So I think that you just, if it was all possible, endeared yourself to her even further than you did.
Ah,
Right now,
I
she's
mean, yeah, Lucy, come on.
queen of comedy. I've read somewhere that all TV shows are a derivative of Honeymooners and I Love Lucy. That was the standard, the gold standard. Everything that followed just derivative of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was so just, I don't even, it was just so perfect. The energy, and you know what's interesting is that on camera, she has this, you know, this persona, but have you seen her in interviews?
A few.
She's very dry, very, you know, she doesn't really like, she's not goofy at all. Like, she's very, quite serious. So it's
Tough.
interesting that,
She was
yeah,
a tough customer.
tough. Yeah, because she knew, man, her timing. I mean, she knew what she wanted. Yeah.
And she was instrumental to. They didn't want Desi Arnaz.
Yeah.
He was, too otherwise at that time, but she was very. Her toughness paid off for her very much so.
Yeah.
What is your practice now? What is your spiritual practice now? Do you dive back into the course often? Are you, do you have a meditative practice, or is it just simply spontaneous being? You wake up and
It's interesting. Right now, I have quite a regime. It's probably about 2 hours because I also do yoga. So every morning, and that's about an hour because I'm a dancer. So I love moving through all that flexibility in those postures because they bring up stored emotion or maybe something I've been holding on to. And I like it to play out on the mat as opposed to playing it out in the day. You know, I'd like to kind of move through it if I can on the mat. So I use yoga as sort of a flushing out, but I do a whole breathing and, I mean, the minute I wake up to go pee or whatever I'm doing in the middle of the night, I bring my mind back to, you are divine consciousness and expression. Nothing else is true. I constantly direct my mind. And because I like that kind of affirmative at this time, now that could change, and it's changed many times. But right now, I'm in a pretty consistent regime of this is how it's going to go down until I'm shown otherwise.
so you've gotten very very good at opening up to hearing that voice of the Holy Spirit directing you of where to be. The great prayer of I will make no decisions today. What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say and to whom?
Right. Yeah. It's pretty much, I don't know what anything's for. So my vast self, which is the I am, will show me. But that didn't happen overnight.
And it's not easy relinquishing control. Even after the mess that we've made, we still insist that I can. Well, this time I'm gonna get it right. It didn't. I'm 60. I didn't get it right all those previous 60 years, but this time I'm gonna get it right. And the ego will always step up and say, let's try it my way one more time.
Now, I'd love to go a little deeper just on that one, because I think this is brilliant to look at. Now, you did get it right. You see, for that 60 years, the choice was, I'm going to experience this till I don't want to experience it anymore, and then I'm going to experience that. Because even in the joy or the happy or the abundance, that all gets to go to the holy mind. Because you're still in separation, you're just at a different end of separation, right? So you did get it right. You're right. You can't get it wrong. That's from a very close friend of mine who actually wrote about it in the book, Lisa Greenfield. She'd say to me, you can't get it wrong. And she's right. You didn't get it wrong. You were right. And now you're in a different phase of right.
So it goes back to that, what you said in your description, that single awakening arc.
Yeah.
This was part of your arc. This was part of your awakening. You are excellent at offering these reinterpretations.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you
and that's no small thing, because you could easily say, my whole life I've gotten it wrong. Who was Dostoevsky in his book? What was the idiot? The character towards the end of his life said, my whole life I've been wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to see it that way.
Mm-mm.
Your whole life you've been right.
It's your decision to make and your interpretation to make. Now, if that interpretation causes suffering, guess what? Perfect. Good for you. Now be present. Invite that Holy Spirit of the mind that is you into that space, that little wiggle room of noticing and the scenario itself. Being the noticer in the scenario, you start to see the space. And this is what I work with my clients. They start to see a space because they've been identifying with this story, right? And so we kind of do this. And then they're like, oh, I'm not that, but I can be aware of it. The minute you get that space, that holy mind, that holy instant, that completeness of what you are comes in and goes, aha, thank you. I just need to look at it with you. Just invite me in to look at it with you. That's all I need you to do. You need to do nothing, look at it.
That little willingness.
Do, which he does say at the end, actually, it's a lot of willingness. But you're right, in the beginning, little willingness.
And I love the fact that we can invite that in at any time, any moment. Mm-hmm. We're not bound by the past. This moment, we can invite the Holy Spirit in. I need help. I need a miracle.
Well, David Hoffmeister, he takes a piece of hard spaghetti that's not cooked, and he said, okay, let's look at it this way, right? There's your linear. Now, the same thing, if I turn it, what is there? It's just a point. So in truth, there's only this now. It's your perspective. You're looking at this linear long piece of spaghetti, but the minute I turn it, now I'm looking at a point. Now.
The spaghetti sermon.
Dude, I love that. When he said that, I was like, ah.
David, he makes it feel like he could pick up anything. and here's the lesson, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Um, so I believe you are the record holder of the longest and most delightful conversation. And I've enjoyed everyone's company on here, but you have been just a series of eye-opening and heart-shattering moments throughout our 2+ hours. Uh, Ninette, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just want to say, dude, you're a beast. Twice a day. I mean, the world is so grateful for your presence, and your subscribers and your listeners, they're so lucky to have your consistency, your dedication. I mean, that is huge. I just want you to know that.
Well, thank you.
That's huge.
You just did a David Hoffmeister, by the way. You reinterpreted my anal retentiveness of showing up twice a day and gave me a holy lesson.
Nice. Well, I want to share one thing with you. My partner said, take uptight and turn it into let's be up to be tight. Instead of you're uptight, you're up to be tight.
I like that.
I like that too.
Cass says, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for
John said, great stuff. Thanks, Yogi and friends. Thanks, Ninette. Oh, yeah, actually, Kat points out, I'm actually live 3 times a day. I do a 5 a.m. Basically, just Yogi talks about A Course in Miracles and other stuff. It's about half an hour. And then I do my afternoon and my evening live stream.
Dude,
It's
beast.
been about 2,000, I think, live streams in a row. But this is my practice. Because I used to worry, like I love these conversations, but I also have just showing up and interacting with people in the chat. And sometimes, I mentioned this to Emily Perry last Friday. You might not know this, but sometimes the internet isn't the most friendly place. This might come as a surprise to you. But if you don't get it here, you're not going to get it anywhere. Show up. Jesus is showing up here. When you had said washing Jesus's feet, Jesus is showing up here as much as he's going to show up anywhere.
Right.
So get into the thick of it. Get into the muck. Embrace everyone. Look for the face of Christ in every single appearance, troll or otherwise, and do your best.
Exactly. Love that.
It made me laugh when you said when we were getting to know each other, and you said the same thing. Dude, you're a beast. That might be one of the greatest things anyone ever said to me before. So I appreciate you so much, and you're welcome to come up anytime you want.
Thank you.
And because James is going to come up and reclaim his record, so we're going to have to keep going back and forth.
I love it.
And I'm going to spend the weekend. I'm going to be watching you and James. I'm looking forward to that. James is just awesome, and what a beautiful foreword he wrote for your book.
He's baller.
Yeah. His Gospel of Astonishment. I just read it for the 3rd time, and it is, as I wrote in an Amazon review, that you can get the essence of the course in beautiful language, and with every exclamation point available.
It's thrilling. It's so thrilling.
You two are a good spiritual matchup. Good energy, both of you coming together. I want to recommend you to my friend Dakini Wild, who has the Miracle Cafe. She's in Australia, and she has the props where you actually look like you're in a coffee house, and you bring your own coffee and talk about everything that you've talked about here.
Love it.
And I think that she'd absolutely love to have you on.
Yeah,
So I'm going to reach out to her
I'd love
tomorrow.
that. Yes, great.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I'm
you
just
all.
going to, yep. I love you, my friend. Thank you.
Love you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock. I will see you then. Everyone, take care.